markets on ETF IQ. The future of money with Bloomberg Crypto. The players behind major transactions on Bloomberg Deals. Biggest risk and the cost of capital on Bloomberg Real Deal. And personal finance, retirement, and wealth management on Bloomberg Money. A different topic every weekday, only on Bloomberg Television.
Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism, business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, just what you need to think about.
Want to be very impactful for the current generation of students that are here right now, Stanford. We want to be equally as impactful for all future generations of students and scholars. Find the people that you respect, enjoy, and that you can learn from.
Yale was one of the largest university endowments, and Stanford Management CEO Rob Wallace says his previous job as a professional ballet dancer prepared him well for the pressures of managing money.
Stepping onto the stage of a major opera house with 3,000 or 4,000 people to do a hard ballet is probably the most acute pressure I've ever felt in my life.
Wallace spent 16 years dancing with some of the world's
Behind
biggest
every
stars, including the Kennedy Center and the Metropolitan Opera.
He retired at 32. Enrolled at Yale as a freshman. Graduated summa cum laude and never looked back. At Yale, Wallace served for David Swenson, pioneer of modern endowment investment. Eventually took him under his wing. As Wallace landing at the MBA,
David Swenson said to me, you're too old to get an MBA. If you stay with your full time, I think I can give you a lot of opportunities to learn and grow as an investor.
And grow he did. After 5 years at Yale's endowment office, Wallace moved to London to run the investment firm Malta Advisors, a role he held for 11 years before Stanford came calling.
I wasn't broadly known by them. I was known among the subset of the investment community that knew a lot about endowments.
Today, Wallace oversees Stanford's endowment at approximately $50 billion. It's the fourth largest endowment in the country, behind Harvard, the University of Texas System, and Yale. Since taking the helm in 2015, he's restructured the portfolio, cutting the number of external partners from 300 to around 85.
Concentrated strategy. He says his biggest challenge isn't yet performance, it's scale.
It gets harder as you get bigger. But also the world is evolving very, very fast in very unusual ways right now with AI. I think intellectual curiosity is really a key thing. I think that discipline lines up well with the type of investment that we do at Stanford.
In the beginning of the 20th century, no major university had a significant endowment. They had tuition, and they get some donations from time to time. Why do you need these big endowments?
If you go back 100 years, Stanford was not a D-line admission university. You had to be able to afford the full tuition rate to come to Stanford. Now, because of the endowment, Stanford is one of the least expensive private four-year undergraduate institutions in the country. I think the net effective tuition paid at Stanford is $20,000 a year. 90% of the students graduate with no student debt when they leave Stanford. Those are things that are enabled by having a large endowment. Research programs at Stanford in engineering, and physics, and medicine, they're very expensive. They're put to work every day in service of the academic mission.
Is that all endowment money, or is it some other money?
That is something that we call the merchant money, which is what you're referring to. That's sort of human capital. And it's either endowment, pure legal endowment, or quasi-endowment funds that the university chooses to invest as a core endowment.
What is your asset allocation, I would say? So, is it 70-30, something like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much 70-30, 70% in equities of one type or another, public and private, 30% of things that are less risky, more liquid.
The reason you have such a high equity percentage is that you have to outperform the averages because you've got to pay Stanford 5% a year.
Yeah, we got to pay Stanford 5 or 5.5% a year and offset the impact of inflation. So we need to earn something like a 9% return. It's not going to happen every year. There's going to be some volatility in the portfolio. The way we think of it is deflated by inflation, we have to earn around 6% compound return.
The 11 years you've been doing this, what has been the overall rate of return of the Stanford endowment?
It's about 10%. The first few years, we made very significant changes to the endowment portfolio here. We ended up rebuilding about 80% of the portfolio. One of the reasons we did that level of restructuring was I felt that we really needed to concentrate the portfolio. At the time and I arrived, we had 300 external partners. That's a lot of external partners to have. The endowment at the time was $24 million. And so as a precondition for success in the long run, you need a reasonable degree of concentration. So we ended up discontinuing 265 of those 300 relationships. So right now we have about 85 core relationships with external partners across the world.
The best performing asset classes have been venture capital, private equity, distressed debt, real estate. What would you say is the best in the last 10 years or so?
We have about 40% of our portfolio invested in private equity, so it's the majority of that equity bucket. The way we define private equity includes venture capital, growth equity, and leverage buyout strategies. And so that asset class has been the highest returning asset class over my time at Stanford.
Now, the best venture funds, unlike the best private equity funds, they have the ability to say, I don't want to take your money, I don't have that big a fund. Is it hard for you to get into any fund you want to get into?
Very hard. Yeah.
For you, Stanford can't get in?
No, we can't get in the size we'd like to be. I mean, if you want to maintain a reasonable degree of concentration in a $50 billion portfolio, it's very hard when you're looking at opportunities that don't scale well. So we find that we have to be there first. So very often we have to create our own opportunity with a brand new external firm. So probably a third of those 85 partners that are our core partners in the portfolio today, we've actually put in business.
So if I want to get money from Stanford and I'm a new venture person or private equity person, I get a meeting with you, what are the characteristics I should exhibit in that meeting that's going to impress you?
We look for people that have superior investment judgment, that they're able to parse risk and return in a very thoughtful and comprehensive way, that they have a process that's rigorous and complete. We need to understand how they practice their craft through different market environments. We need to have a strong alignment of interests, both economically, which is clearly very important, but also philosophically, we need an alignment of interests. And we need to kind of share the right time horizon and the right definition of success.
The funds that you invest with, what percentage of capital do you want the general partner to typically put in?
So what we care mostly about is that it's a substantial portion of the partner's net worth. Some people early in their career, we may be backing a first-time fund, they don't actually have that much personal capital, but we want it to be significant to them. So we want to be aligned that their capital is at risk alongside Stanford's.
Now, in managing an endowment, you are trying to get rates of return that are higher than you can get by putting your money in an index fund, presumably. So what kind of rates of return do someone like you want to get?
Yeah, so we think of it less in terms of relative terms and more in absolute terms, because if we're dispersing to the operating budget of the university something like between 5 and 5.5% of the value of the endowment every year. Right now, that's about $2 billion that's flowing from our portfolio to Stanford's operating budget. So we have kind of two primary goals for the Stanford Endowment. One is we want to be very impactful for the current generations of students and scholars that are here right now at Stanford, but we want to be equally as impactful for all future generations of students and scholars. So we need to earn back what we spend and enough additional to offset the impact of inflation.
Now, recently in the investment world, there's been an obsession with the idea that software companies are overvalued because artificial intelligence will replace a lot of those software companies. What is your view on that?
Our existing software companies that will be beneficiaries of AI and will use it to their advantage. But I think there will be some disintermediation of some types of software businesses. I think that's already happening. It is the source of the most interesting investment opportunities that we're seeing right now, or certainly the most important investment opportunities that we're seeing right now, and it's also the source of something that could create